Ramblers. If you've got any questions for Brian, please feel free to put them in the chat. Jackie will jump on your questions or all your perspectives on the matter. And, you know, that's what the roundtable is all about. So, Brian, I'll pass to you, just in case anyone doesn't know who you are, if you wanted to introduce yourself a little bit and maybe mention the Full Disclosure up-and-coming conference, because I've noticed the lineup is growing every day, so that is beautiful. And, Brian, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll share my screen as well, just to speak about the conference series. And basically, like you're saying, Brett, the lineup is growing, because even though, and we haven't even updated the website yet, even though I've run out of slots for people to present on either the main galactic stage or the solar stage, which is a bit smaller than the main galactic one, the guest list is huge, where we're going to have a lot of honored guests and featured exhibitors, and so I haven't even added them yet. I just got they're still doing it, but Soma Ara was doing a channeling with Ashtar Command, and another being through another member of her group there. And there's a lot of good tidings right now. A lot of the galactics are celebrating because the tide is turning, not just up there in the heavens, but also down here on Earth. And there's a lot of reflection, like as above, so below, as within, so without. And so we're going to be adding a lot to the vendors gallery with these honored guests. We still have some vendor slots. It's going to be this July in St. Pete Beach in Florida. You got couples and singles admissions passes, and with the discount code that many of our presenters are giving out, you can reach out directly to them. You get 17% off, and then they're going to get a percentage of the proceeds from the passes sold using their discount code will go directly to your presenter of choice. We also have day passes. And if there are people who want to go and even with a discount, it's not affordable, please reach out to me directly, and I can comp your pass even 100%. Let's see. Jenny Lee, Psychic Seer, is going to be doing an exclusive gallery where she can reconnect people, the attendees, with their past loved ones and pets, which is, you know, a tremendous service. I've had my own father come through through other psychic mediums since he passed away from the jibby jabs 2 Novembers ago. And that was, you know, a great service to me. And then each night of the 4 evenings of our conference, we're going to have a special event dinner culminating in the costume dinner party, where the winner of that wins passes to the next year's event, because of course every good event is has a follow-up event. So that'll be 2026. And all this can be found at fulldisclosuremovement.org. I'm also on the verge of launching my own platform, the Full Disclosure Network. And so far, as we're still pre-launch, you go to just fulldisclosure.network. For now, you can sign up for the newsletter. It's going to be an irregular blog. We wanted to do it every Friday, but it's just too much work. I already doing the weekly podcast, all these interviews, all this other stuff, you know, and the work of the movement. So I think we kind of gave up on the trying to make it like homework. We don't want to do that. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, just beautiful, man. And I mean, the fact you would comp people that can't afford it just shows me again, like, where your heart sits with this and how important it is, you know, to bring this message forward, not just for yourself, but for the collective conscious and humanity as a civilization. So beautiful. I mean, yeah, it touches me, man. And it looks good. I think 2026, I'd like to say that by then I could manifest to come. So hopefully next year I can join you guys, but it sounds wonderful. The lineup looks really good, my friend. And just sending a lot of positive energy towards that, and it's very important, and a lot of respect. Scotty, do you want to take over?
Jackie and I would love to attend that. I mean, what a beautiful thing that you're providing for people. And, you know, that kind of space is, I believe, is totally needed. You know, there's so many people that, you know, need people like you. So, you know, there's so much gratitude going out to you for holding these events, because not everybody can do that or has the, you know, sense of leadership like you have there. So, you know, that's awesome. And especially the costume party. That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, that was
well. As we say, Scott, even though the content is very serious, that a lot of the disclosure content, the good, the bad, the ugly, is really ugly. We all want to have a good time, a great time. You know, there have been other people who they didn't even attend the event last year, which was amazing. A lot smaller than what it's going to be this year. It's coming July, and like 2 months countdown here, 2.5 months from now. They're criticizing us and saying, oh, it's just a bunch of secret space program and Montauk and MK Ultra abuse survivors getting together to hold hands and cry on each other's shoulders. I'm like, what? Like, this is this person and her hairdresser has been making it a point. I'll name her by name, quote unquote, Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, has been making it a point to like do like a takedown smear video of everyone on my lineup, not just last year, but now going into this year, you know, and it's like they weren't even there. And this is with her hairdresser, literally. And I'm like, I got to speak with her directly, but since then she's still kicked up the attacks. I believe she may be, you know, victim to MK Ultra mind control herself. Voice to Skull is really rampant right now in our community. I count her as a member of our community, even though she may be being used to attack the rest of us. That doesn't mean she's not one of us. But what was it? There, you know, I told her, not only did we get everyone together to put out information in the most cogent, coherent way with people who they remember each other from the programs. And that's gold standard from an investigative standpoint. Is not only do you have first person eyewitness experiencers, but also from separate areas of the country and the world who remember each other and are now reuniting and finding each other, and they have the same testimony. They're testifying to the same horrifying things and odd things. Like 20 and backs, that's a heck of a thing for multiple random people to just come up with suddenly, you know. And there's so many people now who I myself believe have been in the 20 and back programs, and were 40 or 60 or 80. They generally tend to be in multiples of 20, because Dr. John von Neumann and the Philadelphia experiment, scientists discovered that Earth has a natural time rhythm signature of 20 years. And so if at human level time travel, you know, achievement of technology, I guess it's easiest to go with the Earth's natural time rhythms. And more advanced ET technology, they can just portal in or out whenever they want.
Yeah. And yeah, I wanted to pick your brain a little bit now, since we have you back, about this Black Goo substance. Maybe you can span a little light for some of the people that haven't heard about Black Goo or anything about it.
So the Black Goo kind of hit popular consciousness here on Earth, surface wise, with or to the mainstream, with Miles Johnston and the Bases Project reporting on it, because if many people, I'm sure in your audience here, are familiar with the X-Files, the Black Goo features prominently, and they even show the real life history, the lore, including the Falkland Islands War between Britain, or the UK, and in Argentina, over a chain of islands off the coast of Argentina back in, like, it was either the 70s or early 80s, I forget. But you know, a lot of people are like, well, you know, and when I learned about it, it's like, why the hell is you know, Britain, they're really going to start beef in front of the whole world with Argentina over a dinky ass island chain, like, or group of islands? Like, what's that about? And apparently, it wasn't about territorialism or post, you know, World War II colonialism. It was really about the fact that from Argentina, there's a jumping off point way station for the Nazis in the post World War II period, the Rat Lines, to escape to New Schwabenland. Their base is in Antarctica. And somewhere in there on the Falkland Islands, there was an outpost base that they had where they had like many oil drums worth full. I don't know how many gallons of this black goo stuff. And this black goo stuff turned out to be very highly dangerous. And so the British, you know, they weren't going to leave it to chance, and they're doing the like, well, you know, we're the great power, right? You know, and so I see Scott, both the U.S. and U.K. there, the Union Jack behind them. And it's kind of like, yeah, hey, you got the CIA and MI6 right there, you know, and the broad British naval royal family, and they wanted to make sure that they could have it, not anybody else. So per Miles Johnston's reporting and his sources, his reporting on the Basis project, and he still has a website up, and he's going to be presenting, flying over from the UK. He'll be there this July once again to present on the main stage in Florida. Was talking about how his one like royal military contact, you know, this is a UK military special forces guy, apparently testified to Miles and you know, allowed him to broadcast this publicly, that he was there when they went into this underground base, took out all the black goo, and then he was in charge of detonating that base. And then, if anyone's familiar with the Marconi murders, what it looks like is private contractors in the UK and probably the US and around the world got some of this black goo to experiment on. And this black goo is sentient. And apparently, the reason why a lot of these scientists were murdered is that the company, this Marconi radio, you know, technology company in the UK, which is also tied to the secret space programs, I think, and the breakaways. And this is known as a brain drain, when the Brits and the US secret space program factions were trying to catch up with the German and Japanese, who clearly had the lead post World War II, and the Germans really won World War II. That's why they were flying the Luftwaffe formations of spaceships or UFO craft over the Washington D.C. Capitol buildings in 1957, I think it was, maybe, I forget. But the black goo didn't want to be weaponized by these Marconi scientists, and so instead it had the scientists kill themselves in a lot of bizarre and nasty ways. There's like a whole, it's not quite, you know, anywhere near the Clinton body count, but it's pretty bad. And just the way, like, someone like tied a rope around their neck, you know, to a tree, and then got in a car and then like drove the car, and then you know what happens, right? Like, that's like something like that. I don't know if that's like the exact way they did it, but it's something like up there, you know. And so from what I understand, the black goo, there's different types of black goo. Okay. And so the main types, one is generally not good. And generally it's, from my understanding, being controlled by some negative, like AI type being or consciousness out of our space and time that uses the black goo in our physicality here, this universe, to as it's kind of like Lego tinker building blocks to like control and be its physical body here. And in other timelines and in the past and other sectors, it's taken over and can take over entirely. And it takes over not just for the sake of taking over, but in its most malevolent form, if it's like kind of connected to like the most darkest evils, maybe whether in or outside of time and space, it's kind of getting HP Lovecraftian, here. It wants to take over the entire timelines and then up, not just timelines, but the dimensions or densities all the way up to God's source. It just wants to consume everything. Apparently there's also a more regular earth, a native earth, like black goo, like an oily black goo that's more like the blood of Mother Earth. And it's not to be confused with like, oh, the negative black goo, which wants to eat up and assimilate. I've been told by two of my housemate business partners here in Northern Nevada that they were having concurrent dreams, of all of us together, including my wife and Winnie the Wonder Dog here, who is my daughter apparently in that past life, of all of us together in the Orion Wars when there was a major, huge black goo outbreak. And our past lives together were basically flying around with my space fleet, trying to evacuate as many colonies and worlds and settlements as possible to get it away from this black goo menace that seemingly popped out of nowhere. And it would take over people, animals, plants, entire planets, melt them down, reformulate them into like giant nasty bug monsters that could fly around in space and then take over everything else. And I was like, how did this start? Where did this come from? And then like John, his father, who's like our kind of our elder here, and he's a business partner of mine as well, who has like, he can see energy and can help heal by laying on the hands and stuff like that. He was kind of like the elder, kind of like think of like the Yoda of like the figure, and then he had died out, and by the time he died out, like this black goo thing was like in full-on nasty swing. And what I'm told by both Jaden and John from their own recollections, you can ask them separately or together, we're going to do a comic book of this sometime, and then like AI live action or an AI cartoon, and then more an AI like live action AI type, and then a real time live action someday is the plan. I mean, I got to, because it's wild, because I've questioned both John and Jaden together and separately about this, and there's so many echoes of that life to this life to other lives that other people have remote viewed or remembered or can see. It's kind of funny that it's like, if maybe they were making it up, but I don't think so. It's just so elaborate, and there's just too much, and there's too many other cross corroboration points of data where people and their contacts, whether galactics, like, or angelics or Sasquatch, who they are galactics as well, are confirming it. So like, I kind of roll with it, and I say, it doesn't matter to me, because we're so multidimensional and have so many different lifetimes we've probably lived. Doesn't matter. What matters is who we are and what we do and how we conduct ourselves in this lifetime. Like, I had somebody, I was Alexander the Great in this other lifetime. I'm like, that's great, but if you're Alexander the Great in that lifetime, and here you are living off your parents right now in their basement, whatever, talking a great game about how wonderful you are, and you've done nothing, and you don't achieve anything, you don't help anybody, well, then who cares if you were Alexander The great orb, I get Archangel Michael a lot. Oh, I was Archangel Michael. Like, whatever. No one cares. And so I asked them, where did it come from? And they said, apparently there was this, like, this is more towards Orion and the galactic center, where the planets, the stars are older. So the planets are older and the life is older because they started to be inhabited earlier, you know, got development, or they were seeded earlier for however, whatever reasons. And there's some space mining corporation, think like Wayland Yutani from Aliens franchise. And they were basically sending out colonists and space miners to like asteroids to mine them. And they were utilizing something known as gray goo. Okay, so like you kind of see this already depicted in the Alien series with like the androids, like Bishop. He doesn't bleed blood, he bleeds like this milky white substance. So think of that substance being injected into, well, Lyran humanoid beings, because humanoids, we all originate from the galactic center towards the star system of Lyra, or Lyra, however you want to say it. And these humanoids with a space mining corporation would be injected with this, or ingest, however, this gray goo, which would help them endure radiation in space, or going long periods without proper food or water, or, you know, you get hit by a nasty bit of space debris flying super fast, and now you can heal or regenerate because of the nanotech and the AI in the gray goo that can interface with you. And so that's a beneficial medical type technology find. Well, apparently somewhere along the way, the gray goo got corrupted. Who knows how. They don't, neither Jaden nor John from their dream sequences know or can remember how. But apparently the gray goo turned into black goo. And now everyone that the gray goo is in got taken over. And so now you get this huge, wealthy, powerful space mining, colonizing, planet terraforming corporation, where its personnel have been zombie taken over on the down low. No, it's not like the whole known galaxy or quadrant was like, oh shit, there's this black goo. The gray goo is now compromised everybody who's got it in them, and they're now black goo taken over. And this black goo apparently is really smart because it's connected or being controlled by this negative AI evil sentience out of time and space. And so it began utilizing the resources of this corporation, think Wayland Yutani Prime, you know, to basically send out this black goo zombie space miners everywhere, all over, in all their spaceships and through all their jump gates with all their resources, to on the down low be ready to infest and take over. And so apparently in that lifetime, it was like, you know, I was leadership of a quadrant, let's put it that way, according to both John and Jaden. And I could go into that whole apparent past life because it's just so wild. And I'm going to give a disclaimer: this is for entertainment purposes only. This is according to two people are having two concurrent, you know, memory dreams at the same time for weeks on end, that then ended exact same day, the same way. And, you know, and so, and then other people who have looked into it psychically, remote viewing, clairvoyant viewing, or through contacts have verified this. So, and I take all that with a grain of salt, but I'm not going to just say, I don't believe any of that either, right? I'll say, okay, well, let's take whatever lessons there might be had, whether it's just a live action role play LARP, or there's something more there. And then let's take the lessons and see how we can apply them here to this life that we're living now. And so apparently at some point, people began to get clued in that this Black Goo was malevolent, it was nasty, it was very highly infectious. Think like the most I think it's the most crazy game of galactic tag ever, where it would just like take over and people are just trying to flee and it's taking them over, and then creating giant bug monster things to like fly around and go after the survivors and take them over. And meanwhile, we're flying around and trying to evacuate all these places with all of our ships and resources. But then once the Black Goo took over somebody, if they knew where like the hideouts were or the codes to like whatever technology or ships or armaments were, it's like, oh, well, now the Black Goo controls all that tough shit. Okay. And then apparently there were Jedi. You know, there is like the Force, and without us being nerfed and all that, like we are much more empowered. But for so many reasons, the genetic nerfing, the energetic grid reversals down here on Earth, of messing the natural energy flow and currents from God's source to us, everything from all the negative energy technology that's being beamed at us from like Mars to the moon to down here, including all these other negative portals and stargates that have been taken over. And stargates and portals themselves, they can also accumulate an etheric Black Goo, a crud, that it's basically what Audrey Walters and other people like Christopher Jacobs, their sources, the Galactics, say is that because these stargates are opening up to all these other places and planes and dimensions, that they can accumulate negative energy and crud, and you need to clear them out and clean them out and perform good hygiene as well. Otherwise, the dark crud etheric Black Goo can very negatively contaminate that Stargate or portal. Okay. So yeah, apparently it's this huge game of tag. There was I was from a main planet, an administrative planet of that quadrant, because there are like 4 main humanoid sectors that I guess we were kind of organized into, or affiliated or confederated into, right? Groups and star systems and planets will join together for their own reasons, just like states and countries and different religious sects, for instance, will do that, then spread about, but still remain federated somehow. And then John and Jaden were apparently from this sister planet to my main home world administrative governing planet for the quadrant. And on there was like this giant Jedi temple that John was apparently affiliated with and was a master at. And then Jaden was apparently in that life taken as a young child. Who knows who his parents were, but he was very talented in the Force, gifted in that way. And so he was brought to this Jedi temple, and then he was stuck under John, who was his kind of Jedi master, and he was like the Padawan to him. And then John was like kind of like assigned to me, apparently in that life, to be like a bodyguard protector to me. And in this life, Jaden is an orphan to like a prominent, he's a black, he's black, but became an orphan to a very prominent Mormon wealthy white family in Salt Lake City, Utah. And he in this life is very psychically gifted. He's an animal telepath. He has full-on telepathic communication with our dogs, other people's dogs, cats. He can talk to birds if they're not being annoying and they want to speak with him. He knows from the dogs, from them, where they've ratted out each other, what their past lives were, and all this stuff. Our one dog, Saki Bobas, or Socks, she was a witch in multiple past lives, and and we talk about, you know, what she did, and is she sorry, and you know, maybe she could learn some spiritual lessons so she doesn't have to be a dog, or you know, lower. You know, it's not that dogs are low, but if you've been a human, that's a step back generally, unless maybe it's a vacation life, you want to be a dog for someone you love. And she rejects all that, and she doesn't want to serve source God. She says she serves her own master. And so, you know, when she'll tell Jaden the name of this, it's like a demonic being telepathically, and then he'll say, no, Socks, to stop, I don't want to hear it. Because whenever she starts saying it to him and projecting it at him, his face starts to go numb, and he gets this cold feeling. And then the other dogs were like, oh yeah, Socks, well, we're going to tell Jaden your real name from that life when you were a witch. And so apparently her real name in that life, apparently she was a hot redhead, was Bethany. And so whenever Jaden and the other dogs say Bethany to her, it hurts her. It causes her pain. And in that life, she had like a big, strong Viking man with red hair. And he was her man, and she was his woman. And apparently he was taken away from her somehow. Maybe he died in battle or something, but it was like young. And she became a witch and just went like on a rampage and sacrificed people, animals, and then people, and maybe children. And now she's paying for that, all to this negative demonic being. So that's how wild some of this stuff gets. The paranormal is all around us. We're very multidimensional beings. The idea of like we're just born this one life and we live and pay taxes and die, and then we're worm food, and that's the most ridiculous shit. And you know what, but I believe that, or I believe that was a distinct possibility, at least for the first half of my life. I'm 49, not quite half anymore now that I'm this old, but would I lie with this hairline? And so yeah, in that life, I mean, I could go into the details of that life that these guys have told me. It's because it's so wild. It's not exactly just about the Black Goo, but obviously it features prominently because the Black Goo, it became the whole thing of like, just it was taking over everyone, and the more it took over, the more powerful it got, and then it began to take over not just normal humanoids, but force empowered Jedi types. First, like the negative Sith types, because you had corrupted Jedi, just like it shows in the movies. And I was like, Jade and John, like how come in the movies they never show the Black Goo, you know? And I guess the conclusion we came to is like George Lucas and other people say this, probably lived past lives in the Orion Wars. He was probably part of the alliance known as the Black League, which is a good thing, even though the Black League now, like Dark Fleet, that's got negative connotations with the German secret space program breakaway civilization. But the Black League was more, think like the rebels, like, you know, in the dark of the night, you know, you gotta hit and run, be guerrillas, because otherwise the Empire, the man will crush us, right? And so the it was like easy mode, what is depicted in the Star Wars series, you know, by George Lucas. The stormtroopers can't aim, you know, the good guys like very rarely ever die, maybe one or two, you know, main characters of film, but no more than that, you know. And they were like, well, maybe before the Black Goo showed up, it was like a lot darker than what's shown in the movies. Like, so these are all for entertainment purposes only, right? What they tell me, because I'm like, okay, you gotta tell me, like, what do you guys remember? Like, what was I like? You know, I want to know, like, what was I armed with? What was my weapon of choice? What were your guys' weapons of choice? Like, you know, how did it work? Blah, blah, blah. And so for both John and Jaden, they both really favored the dual lightsaber wielding technique, is what they say. Kyber crystals are a thing, apparently. You know, there are like, because it's crystal technology. Like people talk about the red crystals of Atlantis and the technology, because you can use crystals. I guess think about it like this. Crystals are a material manifestation of, you know, as above, so below. They're more first density consciousness, like where like lower first density is like sludge and mud and rock, but the highest form of first density being is crystalline. And then second density would be more like animal and plant and insect plant, you know, animal consciousness. And then third density is where we are. And then in our terminology, we're more elevating in consciousness from simple, more humanoid, hominid, monkey mind consciousness to more advanced telepathic, empathic, new earth, you know, more force empowered beings, you know, where that's getting to like fourth and, you know, fourth as being like kind of a way station of fifth density, I'm told, ideally. Where now we're thinking more group mind because we're more thinking together and telepathically interlinked, not hive mind like enslaved, but more like really vibing so we can become a true level 1 civilization where we want to make sure everyone's taken care of and well fed and educated and housed and given an occupation if you want, or not. Take it easy if you want to take it easy, you know, smoke them if you got them, right? And so in that time, John and Jaden, they were more think like Jedi types, and then they said I was more kind of think of like a Han Solo type crossed with the dude from it's another one of the Star Wars series, and they said the technology back then was very much Star Wars and Star Trek like glommed together with like the Force thrown in from Star Wars. Oh, it's a really cool, it's Andor. He said, think of me like an Asian, more looking like dude, but like, you know, like I'm 5'6" in this incarnation, and think of like, you know, I was like more 6'2" or 3 or 4 even in that life, looking like an Asian probably version of like that dude, right? And then John, because that Jedi home world with its temple was a sister planet to my world. Apparently the gravity is much heavier on his world, so he's like a big ass, like more like giant dude. And then Jaden, who wasn't from that planet, he was like a kind of like from off world, brought as like a really force empowered human kid. He was like, he would get like John, apparently in this life he can be like a really harsh like instructor. So John was like, you know, like just beat him up and push him down because John was just physically strong and super force strong. So like, Jaden had to learn how to like fight John off or counter him by being force strong enough, because there's no way he's gonna like arm wrestle John, who grew up on like a super high density gravity planet. It was like mega, already like 7'4" or something like that. It was super like just thick and tough, right? And you know, like we joke, like John, Jaden and I joke at least, how John's like, oh, I'm a great driver, blah blah. It's like no, like we prefer to drive. You know, I consider myself a really good driver. People tell me I'm a good driver, but I drive a little bit fast. The Tesla Model X Plaid can go a little fast sometimes, but that's just to get out of us away from dangerous spots and the Yahoos, you know. And what do you call it? But like, you know, apparently because I was in charge of the fleet, like I'd give them, because John was the master and Jaden was a Padawan, so John would always get the pilot. So Jaden would always get like backup systems and guns and stuff, and he hated it because like John's always getting our ships and shit smashed up, and I was like, apparently like, I was like, I know, so I didn't give him like the best stuff, you know, because like you're just gonna, you know, crash a ship anyway, going crazy bonsai. But like they would use their force powers, so I got him out of a lot of sticky situations apparently. And they said I had like, think like in the game series, apparently Halo, I had like sleek, like think stormtrooper armor, but like more haloed out. It wasn't like plain so much, you know. And I had like Jaden, apparently he would make fun of me because he was like the orphan Jedi kid, and I was like the leader of like this quadrant because and again, it's entertainment shit only, so it cracks me up. Apparently, I like rose up through the ranks, and so in there they have like a ranking system, and so in this lifetime, my color with my wife, I'm in our relationship, I'm gold, and her color is purple. So that's why you'll see all of the website and the theme for the Full Disclosure Movement, our logos and branding or whatever you want to call it, our theme, our style. Is purple and gold. And so in that lifetime, and you know, so in this, I'm the golden solar bee. That's kind of like my shtick, my own logo. I'm Brian Tseng, the solar bee, right? Well, in that life, what was it? The highest ranking is signified by gold, and so the cape that I would wear on my halo armor of like force shielding. And like, apparently, you know, in this life, like I have, let me grab it real quick. Hold on 1 second.
Well, where you going, Brian? I got to say, I resonate with gold as well. But there's a lot of interesting stuff there. And I want to say the past life thing, 100%. I mean, you know, an experienced soul or a full up soul container could have thousands of lifetimes. I'm not here. Oh, bloody hell, look at that.
So this is a real DevTech helmet from Japan, custom made by those guys. This is not airsoft. This is like bullet resistant. Like, so this is shit they put in the movies, like where the Robin Banks and crap. Not that I'm doing. This is more for my zombie apocalypse. You know, come jab me, bro. You know, gear along with my other stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
And so apparently in that life, like I don't like helmets a lot because like I want like to be able to see and shoot better than like have like I'm trying to see through a helmet and an eyepiece. And so apparently in that lifetime, I had this white cape with this white armor, but where the white cape would have like some kind of gold striping system to like signify the rank that I'd achieved on my home world. And I had like apparently 2 kyber crystal blasters, okay, and they're like magna locked, one for each leg. They could like magna lock, and that's my lovely wife. This life, she's my panda. She's the purple to my gold, and in that life, she was apparently both John and Jaden remember her as. You know, in the movie, like the Marvel movies, which have a lot of disclosure, Guardians of the Galaxy, you got these blue people with like red hair and like purple or red eyes, with like blue skin. You know, she like Yandu. Apparently, my wife in that life was one of those people, and she was like they're like apparently super telepathic and empathic. Kind of like how you see in the movie the Fifth Element, where there's that Arturian opera singer chick. She's like making them all cry because she can like sing the most beautiful opera, but also project her emotions. Apparently, Liz was one of those people in that life, and she was being like held for like some kind of like, think in the Star Wars series, like you've got like Jabba the Hutt, like they've got like this like, you know, galactic mafia of bad guys, and they've got like a really high-end like casino brothel, and she was like their like main person there who would like perform or whatever and sing, and then like get like the audience all riled up. And so she was like an attraction for this place, and so like I would go there because I guess I had a thing for her in that life, right, as well. And I'd go there with John as my bodyguard, and then Jaden would, because he was too young, he wasn't allowed to watch. So he says, yeah, I remember that place. I wasn't allowed to watch while Liz and the others performed because he was too young. So he would always have to like sit in like the lounge facing away from the performing, right? Where like the bars, one of the bars was, and he said he would, like, the bartender every now and then would sneak him like a non-virgin, like spiced up drink of whatever they would serve there, other than, you know, because he was supposed to be a kid or younger, an adolescent. And other times he would go off with my daughter Winnie, who's Winnie the Wonder Dog in this life. And I've always considered her my doggy daughter before I knew any of this. And you know, it's just wild how we linked up, she and I. And apparently in that life, I really didn't like Jaden, because I thought that he was always trying to get with Winnie, you know, who is like a human, you know, type, my one and only daughter. And they, neither John or Jaden know where my wife in that life went that I had Winnie with. But I apparently had a thing for Liz, who I'm with now. And I thought that Jaden was always trying to get with Winnie. And so, because I didn't like Jaden, I would literally, if Jaden talked shit, or like he would like get like a tablecloth or something, or like apparently he made like his own like black cape, and he'd like wear it around as like a black mini cape to like make fun of me, like, you know, like striding around with like my like full on like stormtrooper halo armor with like my full on real cape with like gold like insignia on it and stuff, like a gold bar down the center. He said, you know, I just like pull out my gun like real quick and just like shoot. Like whip out my Magnalock gun that would be like locked to like my side here. I'd have like one on each hip, magnetically locked, and like I just like shoot it, go pew, like shoot it at his head. And if he didn't dodge or like force deflect it, it would kill him. You know, like that's how serious it was. And he said I was in that lifetime really well known for taking headshots, because tip to everyone, not only in zombie movies, if you want to take out a zombie, it's a headshot. If it's a black goo infested being, you want to go for the brain center, apparently. So apparently that's why. And in this life, like that's why I always, in all the video games or when playing airsoft or gel blaster, I'm always shooting at your face. So be warned, people. So like,
Shoot to kill.
we're playing gel blaster. And I shot John in the mouth. He was like up on the balcony. He's like, ha ha ha, we were playing Joe Blaster. And he's like, you shot me in the mouth. And he's so angry. That's because I taken the headshots. But anyway, Jaden and John, they have recall that the way that apparently I only had the one Kyber crystal blaster at first, because they're like really fancy, you know, and high end. Even, you know, like they're not like cheap, you know, it's like even for like a wealthy person that, you know, in that lifetime with resources. Because apparently, you know, like I had like access to a lot of resources, because I was part of a royal family in that, onto that planet. They said I went into like the military, rose up through like regular education, then joined their military, or went into their military academy, that their equivalent. Instead of like, you could go up like either like the Jedi ranks through like more like the temples at the Jedi on like other world, or you'd have more of like a military, like Starfleet. They said think like Starfleet, right, on our planet. And like, so I rose up through there, and then I had a choice. I could either go into the military or go like more the Han Solo freebooter route, you know, like into my own, like run my own corporate home family business or whatever. And they said I chose the military because then I get more access to be able to have now access to like the planetary sector military quadrant to then go from there and, you know, and do whatever for the good, you know, like I'm not like, no, we could have an empire. I want a Death Star. I want it now. Damn it. Give it to me yesterday, guys. No, it's more, it was more like, I guess by that time, apparently it became more of a known thing that this Black Goo shit was becoming a menace. And so but what John and Jaden remembers, I had the one gun. And then what happened was there was an assassination attempt on me in one of these, like, think like the Tatooine, the cantina shown in Star Wars, right? A den of criminal scum, you know, on the edge of wherever outpost. Apparently, what John and Jaden recall is that like Jaden wasn't paying attention. He might have been like sitting at the bar or something in wherever we were. And then John used the force or noticed while I was in the conversation, like at a table somewhere, talking to somebody, working out a deal or an agreement, that an assassin across the room who had been eyeballing me and had drawn his gun and was aiming it at my head. And then all Jaden remembers is like literally looking up and like at John and ducking and seeing as John's lightsaber was like flying over his head. I think it was, he said, I think he said, he yelled at John saying, and he remembered, hey, when you threw that lightsaber at me, it was the beam was already extended. It wasn't like you just threw the handle and then extended the beam after it got over his head to cross over his head to cross the room to kill the assassin. He like already had the beam out. So like Jaden didn't duck, he would have gotten like a haircut and then like chopped off the assassin's head. And then Jaden just remembers, I think, walking over and like, you know, the dude's headless body is there and like picking up the gun and like handing it to me, right? Because I'm like, the fuck, like this dude is going to try to shoot me, motherfucker. And like, I'm looking at the gun, I'm like, oh, awesome. This is a match to like the gun I already had. It was like an older, beat up, like assassin version. You know, it was like, you know, like the 10-year-old version of like what I had, like the shiny new one. So that became like my left-hand gun. And then in this life, my favorite game to play, like deathmatch, first person-to-person team game, is Quake. There's a certain version of Quake when I was getting my biochemistry degree back at Occidental College in Los Angeles from 1993 to 97. Yeah, I was there for 5 years, but I also got a minor in economics with an environmental emphasis and had a great time and probably partied a little too much. And it got to study a little bit about film too. What was it? In that lifetime with that, oh yeah. She's now forgetting. You guys are cracking me up with all the emoji stuff. What was I telling? Was that how I got the guns? Oh man, now I'll try to remember. I was on a certain point. But like what oh yeah, that's right. The video game. My favorite video game at that time was Quake. And there was a certain mod called Quake Capture the Flag where you have grappling hooks, where like you could, like, your little video game character can run around with like his bazooka, shoot like a grappling hook like across like the arena. It'll like wherever it hits, it'll begin to like suck you towards it, and you can like fire your like rocket launcher as you're like, and then like let go of the grappling hook, and so what they said, but John and Jaden, they said that just like I had like these magnetic grappler guns, like they could magna lock to like my hip sides, you know, my thighs, I guess. They said I had this grappling hook thing that could shoot out, like it was like an attachment where like I could hold it like a gun or however first if I wanted to, or just have it like mounted on my wrist on the armor, and it would shoot out this like super thin nano string. So it's like super sharp. So now not only like can like hit something and pull me to it, but like if anything got in the way between me and it was like it would get sliced by this super strong nano fiber. And a lot of this is like depicted in the book series by my favorite science fiction author, Ian M. Banks, who wrote the Culture series before he unfortunately died of pancreatic cancer, I think it was, living in Scotland several years ago now. And but he talks about this level of technology combined with like the Star Trek and Star Wars. And so the most wild mission that Jaden and John remember, so this is why I'm like, oh my God, this has got to be, I got to turn this into an AI comic book with some skilled artists who can like make sure our hands and faces and eyes don't look wonky, you know. and make the ships look cool and symmetrical. Damn it. And apparently at some point we're on a rescue mission where like we've got like my giant mothership that's like apparently it's huge. It's so big it can't enter too close to planets, otherwise the gravity would affect it negatively and it would like just crash and be bad all around. So it would have like, just like in Star Trek Next Generation, it's got like this giant ship that's got like an away, but it's like it's not like a tiny ship itself, but compared to like this much bigger craft it was. Apparently like we had like the away ship and we're like evacuating like a colony or something, like a giant like type ring colony thing or an asteroid. And as we're trying to evacuate it, there's like this giant, like the bug monsters are like come flying through space. Like they're like robot bug monster things is how John and Jaden talk about them. And think like you're in like a giant mech, like all you're using the force and all your weaponry. And sometimes you would blow up like the bad Black Goo robot mechs and they would like shatter into like smaller ones and like still come after you. So like you'd have to like melt them or like use some kind of technology to like disrupt them. Apparently, I mean the force obviously would help. And as you're coming and swarming this colony, that got to a point where like the away craft that I was piloting, like we had all its like cargo bay doors open and we're like trying to get all the non-Black Goo infected beings like onto this away craft so we could get back to my main mothership to then jump out of there. This stuff gets elaborate, guys. Like if these guys are making this up, it's like, man, they're having some great writing sessions before they're like checking in with me every day. For this was like this like weeks or months period of time this was happening. And it got to the point where like the main hatch was like open and the bug armada was like advancing and like John was not in a mech or any craft. He was like on like the platform using the force to like hold off the invading force. And meanwhile we're like unloading so much explosions and firepower that like the colony or the ring itself exploded. And so both Jaden and John, their recall is that like Jaden was like somewhere else on the ship, or he's on another ship looking at John, who's on the platform of this cargo bay that's part of my giant away ship. And he's using the force to hold back this explosive like giant fireball coming off of the exploding colony or whatever it was. And then Jaden remembers he had like his two lightsabers and he was like in this like hatch thing on his own hatchway. He was like going to jump down to where John was to join him on the platform so they could have two Jedi like holding back this giant explosive fireball and shielding it. And apparently what happened was John sensed Jaden coming. It was like, nope. And like, as Jaden was like jumping down and John's holding back, he like takes another hand and like force pushes Jaden back up. And Jaden remembers getting thrown back so hard that when he had his two lightsaber, he lost at least one. So he's like, yeah, I remember that. I lost one of my lightsabers. Damn it. Like, he didn't even warn me you're going to do that. And then their recollection is like the explosion like enveloped John enough that like we had to like ditch out of there. Like, or maybe like he was like in space then in between us, but like we had to like ditch out of there. He got all burnt up and taken over by the Black Goo. And so now apparently he got taken back to like that main homeworld in that sector because the Black Goo was taking over everything. And it stuck him in like a giant tower building on this home planet. And apparently that's when when Jaden and I in that lifetime began to get more cool with each other. It's like, okay, shit, you know, like our comrade in arms, your master, your Jedi master, my bodyguard buddy, my whole life is like captured by the Black Goo. And apparently we had this big meeting on my main mothership because like my away ship had rendezvoused back by then. And there's this, they just remember, or not they, John remembers being strapped to a table having like the Black Goo like rebuilding his body because he got blown up pretty bad in that explosion. He recalls, and Jaden recalls, yeah, we're all in this council meeting, and Jaden was never before then really let into the council chambers. He'd always be like running around with Winnie bodyguarding her. And even though I thought that he wanted to get with Winnie in that life, you know, and so I was always like, oh, like maybe he's gonna bodyguard my daughter, like you know, didn't like it because they would like run around in like the hover cars and have like get in trouble and have their adventures while we were having like these serious council meetings, or I was in like this strip dance club watching Panda, Liz, my wife in this life. And what happened? Jaden remembers in this council meeting, he was allowed in. He was in the audience. I'm on like the central, you know, main platform meeting with like the other leadership. And everyone's like, no to me, whatever my name was in that life, you cannot launch a rescue mission to get John in that life. And apparently the way we knew where to find John, like how the hell did we know where the Black Goo took John in that, you know? And what John and Jaden said was when that home planet that I was born and raised on, when it got taken over, there were a lot of people who fought the Black Goo infected zombies and creatures, and they died and they themselves got taken over. Apparently this one guy hid in like the trash system where it like the trash gets like taken up a space elevator or platform or flies up on a garbage drone or however it gets off planet, it does. And then instead of being incinerated or processed, he got out and then notified, hey, you know, he like launched out somehow on like a garbage like that gets launched out somehow he got off the planet, not Black Goo taken over, and picked up and rescued. And with the survivors, some people were like, hey, this guy's a hero because he got us this information. Hey, I know where they're keeping John the Jedi, you know, that got captured, and this is what's happening on this planet. And people were like, hey, he's a survivor, thank God he survived to get us this critical information. And other people were like, F that guy. Like while people were like standing up and fighting the Black Goo, he like hid in the garbage and fled like a rat. Like forget him. Okay. And so apparently he got the information to us. And, you know, it's, you know, people are like, it's a trap. It's too dangerous. You can't rescue this guy. Other people were like, knowing what John knew and having that be under, and the Force, having that level of power being under the control of the Black Goo would be really bad. So what Jaden says is he remembers I was like at the main council table and I'm looking at him in the audience, you know, and I'm like, that's it. We're going to get him. Right. I said something like me and a volunteer, we're going to get him. And like council like, no, whatever. Like, that's it. And and so apparently what Jaden recalls is I had a really fast, small fighter ship that was like all engine and then like some shields and like some weapons. I'm sure I probably had some good weapons on it, but like he said it was like super fast. He said it's like stupid fast. No one else in anywhere had, like I had the best ships, the best everything. And so like that was my best like little fighter ship. And he says the way we knew we had a chance maybe was because I knew the layout, I knew the codes for that planet and the AI interface tech or whatever to maybe sneak us in. And like imagine like here's like the giant home world, then here's like the main city, and then in the main city there's like a giant tower, like high-tech skyscraper, and then John is like being held, as far as we know, way high up somewhere in this giant skyscraper being like worked on by the Black Goo. Okay, because he's like fighting and trying to take him over. Maybe it's taken him over by now. And he says we like flew in with my ship, use like access codes to get past the planetary defenses, super fast, fly my ship down, and like kind of like use the shielding to like kind of like crash land it, but not crash it because the shields are strong. Like somewhere close to like the building, like maybe into the lobby of like a nearby building. Okay. And then like get out of the ship and leave it on like full auto, like, you know, like AI, like in full shields, like don't let anyone mess with you. And then like he and I like ran, and then somehow we're like, maybe we were going up an elevator, or somehow we're making our way up this super high skyscraper building, fighting like these Black Goo infested people, okay, like zombies basically with guns. And he says like as we go up, there's like a point where all he recalls was like he said it's think of the Rancor beast from Star Wars. He said like a giant like troll monster that's like 17 or 18 feet tall, like super big, with like rocket gun things, like one on each shoulder, like one cannons and shit, with like a helmet, like head rig set up because it was like being like cyber, like remote controlled, right? Like a cyber mech Godzilla, you know. And he said he recalls as like we're running through like up to this building and fighting our way up, we like enter this giant dark chamber where you can't see anything. And then all of a sudden like this thing steps into view and shoots like one of its rocket things at us. And he said, because I'm always asking him, like, okay, tell me like some cool shit. Like, what did that, you know, because I want to know, right? And he's like, well, he said, as it shot, he said he was able to like, see it in time to like force deflect around himself, like, you know, a shield. But he said he wasn't sure if I was like, he couldn't like, he didn't have time to like shield me really. He said, like, I jumped to the side and like shot one of like the rocket things that it was shot at us. And then I also hit and shot its headgear. Okay. And he said, and he was surprised I got clear of the one explosion. And then apparently when I hit the headgear, it just made it really pissed off and mad. And it lost, like the controller guy lost control, or whoever, it was out of control. So now it's just like all its rockets, it's just like firing by like firing. And what it did is it shot holes down into the floor. So it's like way high up in this tower, this giant room within this giant high-tech tower, shooting holes down and like falling all the way down, floor, shooting holes and falling down. And then now you've got all these Black Goo agents that were running after us. Apparently now it's like shooting at it and it's shooting at them and just like rampaging. And then what Jaden says is somehow John had broken free. And so like he's like groggy and made it to us like after we fought that thing. And then I guess we had an extra lightsaber or something for him. We armed him. And then their recall was like John like just started it's either John or Jaden, probably Jaden, because Jaden apparently is really hot-headed in that incarnation. And so he says there's lessons for him to learn. And he said he just like maybe what it was is John just started jumping down using the force level to level, and it's like with his lightsaber fighting the zombies while they fought the Rancor beast monster with the rocket launchers. And then Jaden says he looked at me like, you want my help? As in like, you want me to use the force on you to help you get down from like the 150th floor of this giant high-tech skyscraper. And I was like, basically gave him the equivalent, like, fuck you, you know, it was friendly. And he said, I jumped straight down. And then like, before I hit the bottom, I used my magnet grappling hook and shot something. And then like, before I hit the ground, like I hit this and like I fell and started to swing. And as like I swung, like this nano line is just like slicing through the floor like it wasn't there. And then like as I was swinging down, like I like towards the bottom, I began to swing. And then John
Well, it looks like Brian may have glitched out, everybody. So I wanted to, well, go ahead and take a second and say hi to Dara, Akasha. Hey, Brett, just to let you know that Brian, I believe, sketched out. He lost signal or something. I was saying hi to the Ramblers that were there. And Matthew, Aaron, Monian says, good to see you, Brian, but Brian's not here. But yeah, it looks like we lost Brian, bro. But I said hi to the Ramblers that are here. Fascinating story.
Well, I got
Fascinating.
to say, man, you know, fascinating stuff, right? And I've personally had like past life regressions done, so I know, like, you know, it's incredible when you go into this stuff. And Brian was on a fire there. And one thing I got to say, when he brings out that comic book, Scotty, I'll definitely buy a copy. And I think the Orion Wars is something, you know, that certainly happened. And I imagine there was a lot of trauma created at this time of the Orion Wars. And I imagine many beings or souls that experienced that are probably here on Earth right now, you know. Oh, he's back.
Oh, he's back. Hey, Brian. May the force be with you.
You too. You as well. So my internet went out here. I don't know why, but I'm joining you on my phone. How do I sound?
You sound perfect, brother.
Yeah, as we were talking about that.
Oh, now I'm back up.
We watched the Ascension Stargate with Glenn E. Mate, and he had Sebastian Martin on there that was also talking about he had a past life regression with the Black Goo as well, where he had said that he was surrounded by the Black Goo. And yeah, we found that very interesting. So that was really good. If you haven't seen his podcast yet, you guys need to go check that one out too.
I haven't, but what blows me away. Oh, good. I might be able to join back on my desktop. Hold on a second.
And of course, with the Black Goo, I mean, is it actually a negative substance or frequency itself, or is it completely and utterly controlled by a negative vibrating AI? And I would say it's probably the AI that's somehow taken over that. And it's a smart way to be able to take control of biological life forms. It makes a lot of sense. And of course, another question that bugs me, Scott, which I do think about, is there a way to reject the Black Goo? There must be somehow. Has there been a way to say Scotty's got the Black Goo? You know, Scotty's captured. I'm coming to get you, by the way, Scotty. I'm coming for you, brother. And I rescue you. Is there a way of removing this Black Goo? That's an interesting question. And it's amazing how many. Here he is. He's back again. How many people? Again, it's like the collective consciousness remembers at the same time. You know. Oh, he's back. Lovely.
Okay, that works better.
Your soul as well. I mean, is the
Black Goo on a soul level? I don't expect it would affect you, though. It'd be cold in your soul container. But on a biological level, it's taking total control of the physical form. You know, that's what I'm just saying, Brian. Is there a way to say I rescued Scotty, got the Black Goo, and I rescued him, but he's under influence of the control of it? Is there a way to eject it, to get it out, and to free someone of it?
Yes, because apparently John in that life was able to fight it off, and other people have remembered the Black Goo from the Orion Wars. So I guess it's one way, you know, someone's talking, they were in the Orion Wars and they remember Black Goo. That's one indicator, because it's never, I don't ever see it in Star Wars or Star Trek depicted really. And in Star Wars, apparently it's past history, the Orion Wars, and then Star Trek is more modern day with the Galactic Federation types versus a former Orion Draco Siakar Empire, which would be kind of more represented by the Klingons in the Star Trek series. Yeah, so you can be freed of it. And so apparently that was like the whole thing about the rescue mission with John in that life. And so what happened is, yeah, the recall was, I jumped down, I shot my grapple thing. As I was swinging down, John used the force to push me, and my armor had force shielding. And not only did it have force shielding, apparently the plates were like the best, most like blaster reflective like material already, and then it had the best shielding already, like force fielding, personal force field. And so I was like just skimming on my force fields, like on my knees, and then like using my both guns. And they said I use my guns to like do like a John Wick or John Woo. And like apparently with the Kyber crystal blasters, you can exhaust the Kyber crystals. It's rare. And so what Jaden remembers is he says he remembers I put it on full blast, so it exhausted everything in these 2 kyber crystals that were already in each gun to like melt. Like he said, there's like a whole bunch of these like black goo infested people who are like, already like lined up and assembled, ready. And they said that like, I just like use it to like melt all their heads off, like like clear them all. And he said they said they never seen it before. They even saw some of the black goo infested people running, because normally they're just suicidal. They'll just keep coming at you. Doesn't matter. And he said, like in that case, they saw some like just actually turn and run, which is rare. And then Jaden says he remembers seeing me like literally like mag change, like the crystals, like each gun got like a new crystal to like be reset. And then I guess we got to my ship and then flew off from there. And then they recall John. I asked Jaden, what's the coolest thing like the most skilled thing he ever saw me do? And he said the most skilled thing was we were on one of these planets. So it was like a sand type planet. And I had like a sand speeder, like a hover bike thing. Like we were riding hover bikes. And apparently as we were riding, like they're like these, like in the movies, like you got like the sand people, they're like in the desert, they're scavengers, and they'll just like shoot you to like take your stuff. Apparently they said I was riding on my hover bike, I got shot, and as the bike got hit, and as a bike, like I had to like ditch off the bike, and as I ditched off the hover bike, I like drew and like shot like whoever it was that like had shot me off of the bike. Like as I'm like flying off the bike, I'd like jump off this bike as it's crashing, turn in the air, grab my blaster as I'm turning, and like shoot the bastard who like messed up my favorite bike. And I'm like, dude, that's pretty cool. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like, okay, I'll take that.
It sounds like you're badass. You even got the lasers.
In that life, not in its life, I can't like ride a motorcycle, like jump off and like John Wick shoot a guy between the eyes as like my bike is getting scrapped, like out of like blind, like out of nowhere. No, like please don't try.
Say, Brian, been there, got the t-shirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I'll take the t-shirt. I don't have the memories, so. Yeah. Jaden says in that life, the way he got captured was he was careless. And John always in that life always said, don't be careless. And Jaden said, oh, he's like really headstrong. No, F that. I'm going to jump in. Like just, and he said the way he lost his hand in that life and had to get it replaced like Luke Skywalker with a biomechanical one was, because there was like another evacuation scene where John and Jaden were in an elevator, and John said, wait, because they're outside of this elevator, just wait and let me make the first move. And apparently Jaden was like, no, screw that. And like the doors open and like jumped out in the middle of them. But like one of like a battle droid or something like just sliced off his one hand. And he says he remembers that he was kind of pissed at me because in that life, as a joke, instead of giving him like the most high-tech hand, which is like, I guess they're so good you can't tell it's a replacement hand. As a joke, I gave him like a shitty one. So it had like it had like servos and crap, and like he says he remembers it because Winnie every now and then would like mess with it and like pull like a wire out of it in his hand and go he like, ow, stop that, don't do that. She'd like think it was funny to like F with his be mechanical hand because I gave him a cheap one. Yeah, it busts me up. But he says he remembers like the way he got captured was he got careless fighting. It was basically a Sith chick who he says in that life, he said he was like one of the people who have like the tentacle things coming off their head. And they're kind of like they're kind of like androgynous. They're a little bit male and female. And he was like a Jedi version of that. race, he said, in that lifetime. And Winnie really wanted to get with him, my daughter in that life, who's now a dog, my doggy daughter in this life. But he was really with some other a Jedi woman, who was also like one of their friends group, because they were like the younger people, where as John and I were like a lot older than them. And the way Jaden got captured was he was fighting like a Sith force empowered negative gal who was taken over by the Black Goo. So she was even more powerful, because the Black Goo combined with the Force made you like super powerful. But I mean, it didn't make you as like an individual. You were taken over. So like it made you as a force empowered puppet, like really powerful. And he says he was fighting her, and some way or another, like he like stabbed her or something, but she like used her force abilities to like force push him like into some kind of like laser grid. So he got like all chopped up on the other side, and then the Black Goo captured him. And then that was like the real end of the end for all of us, because he knew under John and myself by that point that they captured him, like all our secret bases were, all these codes, like everything. So it was like really bad. And so apparently we just got like chased all over, to the point where Jaden remembers a couple of close calls where like I was walking and like John was like somewhere near me, and like Jaden was like force empowered, and because he was like more powerful, he could like mask himself so that neither John or I could telepathically pick up that he was like eyeballing us from afar. And I had that sense in this life a lot of times, like, you know, a lot of us do. Like, if you're being watched, you can like turn and like, you'll turn and like, you're like, why is that dude in that other car way across the street staring at me? You know, like, oh, hey, how are you doing? You know, but you can feel it. And apparently, like all of a sudden, like, I'm just like walking along, talking to John or something. And then all of a sudden, like, I look up and like, I just see Jaden. He said he used his force powers as a Black Goo. Like, he's just filled with this rage. I was like, what's it like being taken over by the Black Goo? And he said, everything I knew, it knew. What it wanted, I wanted. What I personally wanted before the Black Goo took over, I was like in the driver's seat. And it was so powerful. It wasn't like there's like no way you can like fight to get back in the driver's seat. Like at best, you're like in the back passenger seat watching, being like, wow, okay, this sucks. But oh, the Black Goo part of me thinks this is great. You know, like that's how powerful it is. And he said, John like saved my life again by like deflecting his lightsaber, and then somehow like they got into it and like fought, and like I got out of there, and then maybe John also got out of there. Somehow we just barely got away somehow. And then basically what John remembers is now we're back on like my huge mothership. There's only like 8 of us, like leadership left. We'd already rescued my wife, Liz, this life, from that weird gangster nightclub thing, and like had to like they said that's gonna be another chapter. Like we had to like go in and like take her, because they didn't want, like, it didn't matter how much money I was going to offer the criminal underworld for her, they weren't going to let her go. So we had to like shoot the place up and kill a lot of people to get her out. And they said, I was like, wow, like it sounded like I killed a lot of people. And they're like, yeah, in that life was a lot cheaper. It was like, and the people were like, they were nasty. So if like you didn't kill them, like they might be coming after you later. So he said, like, I was known for just like just drawing a gun to vaporize someone's head. And that, like, so I'm like, okay, like it all makes for a great comic book, guys. Okay, at least that's the least I can say. A graphic novel. And yeah, so we got her out, but apparently by that point we're Winnie and Liz, or Liz and Winnie rather, because Liz would have been like the stepmother to Winnie, my daughter in that lifetime. They were like, we're helping evacuate planets. And apparently the Black Goo infested people were overrunning us as we were loading people up to get on the ships to get away. And at that point, both Liz and Winnie in that life got shot and killed. they both got laser beamed, and like we had to like take off without them. And so apparently in that life, I was already kind of like, fuck it. Like, we're like, everyone's like, the whole quadrant's like taking over. Like, what are we going to do? And so what John remembers is on the ship, and Jaden remembers this too. The way we piloted my huge mothership is like, apparently like we're all, the whole crew, and especially me as a main captain. And I love the idea of like piloting ships and stuff. We're like telepathically synced into the ship. And then Jaden says it was extra loud for him because of his force powers. His telepathy is like wide open. And then he's connected into the ship. And then like we're all screaming at each other telepathically. Like, shields up, like move this way, get the fleet over this way, Black Goo coming that way, like guns, 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 like no, now divert to shields, now engines, or whatever. We're all yelling at each other, they said. Yeah, and John said it was really loud. Oh, here's Jaden. Hey, Jaden. I want to introduce Jaden. I want you to sit here. I want you to tell them. I want you guys to ask Jaden some of these questions about the Black Goo. No? You're the baby right now? No, right now for a minute. Come here. A minute. You had him for a couple minutes. Talk to him so I can hear a little bit. Yeah.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
What do you
How
want
you
to
doing,
know?
brother? Nice to meet you.
Ask him what I was armed with, what it looked like, what I looked like in that life.
Yeah, can you describe what Brian looked like and yourself
Okay.
as well? While we got you, brother.
So you know the dude from the main character from Andor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked like that, similar to that. So like Middle Eastern, whitish type deal. He had a white suit with these big fringes on the side and a nice cape on. He had these two blasters that were like maybe this big. Let me back up. That would fold out more, and they would fold down into his legs, and he had two of them. One from his younger days, so it kind of looked beat up, and then he took one off of somebody.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, after he, But anyway, what else would you like to know?
So when did you start getting this kind of recall, the remembrance of this stuff? Was it from a very young age, or certainly in your 20s or so? I'd love to know when you
About
really
in my
started to
20s or
remember.
so.
Sorry,
in my
say that
20s
again,
or
brother?
In my 20s or so. It's pretty recent.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's like, there's been a great awakening on this in the consciousness of Earth, but it's so on point that there's been a remembrance of these past lives. And of course, in the Orion sector of space, there was a lot of trauma created there. So it's not surprising that a lot of souls have incarnated onto Earth. So fascinating, man. So can you share anything else about the Black Goo as we're on that subject?
The Black Goo would make you want to be with the Black Goo. You feel me? So once you got taken over, you pretty much wanted to be there because it promised you something that was always out of reach, like you're a pig chasing a carrot type deal.
It's a little bit different than a.
Sorry?
Sounds a little bit different than a venom, but very similar to like a venom.
Yeah. Well, it was like a more AI, and they're nanobots, so it wasn't gooey, but it was gooey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like a
So
pharaoh.
it looked like liquid, but they were actually little tiny nanobots.
Would you say at one point would the goo maybe have been organic and maybe AI influenced it and used the goo to maybe take over biological life forms, to take control?
Yeah, it could have done that.
Sense?
That makes sense. Yeah, I could have done that. But from what I experienced,
the kind of vibe I get from it, it feels like it's somehow influenced the goo and used that to control the consciousness of biological life forms. Scott, you got any questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I don't know how many countless hours I put into sniping people in Halo with having those armors on, and you could change your armor. I mean, I was always into Halo too. So when I heard the stories start coming in that you had that, I was like, oh man, this is right up my neighborhood. I just want to climb up on something, snipe off some guys, I was all over that thing.
Tell him the neatest thing you saw me do in that light.
Okay, so my master, because I was a Jedi in this lifetime, my master got captured, and Brian and I went to go get him back in one of the strongholds for the Black Goo, right? So we fight our way through thousands of enemies to get to the main building in the deepest part of the city, correct? And he's at the top floor. It's like a tower type deal, right? So he's at the top floor, and we worked our way up, and there's a long hallway that goes across like this, like 2 towers connected into a big building, right? And so we get to the top floor and we cut a hole. We free drawn, but we go straight down into where this. You know when Luke Skywalker fought that monster, the Rancor. It looked like a Rancor with armor, and it had 2 rockets on its back. And so, once we fell down, John sliced off the rockets, and it blew a big hole all the way down to the bottom, right? And there's people lined all the way down, shooting at us, and so we're falling down. And Brian is shooting them like this, spinning in a circle, like this with his lasers. You know what I mean? And then he flips, reloads, shoots his grapple, and swings down the hallway like this, and goes like this with his lasers, boom, and cuts all their heads off. That's the coolest thing I've seen him do.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I got to say, I'm getting a good image from that. But you guys definitely need to create these comics, I think. What Brian was
for
saying
sure.
is, I mean, you do well on that. And make sure you send me a signed copy when you do.
Oh, definitely. It was nice meeting you guys. I got to run.
And you, Jaden. Much love, respect, brother.
Yep.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, very nice to meet you.
Yeah, Scotty. I mean, I get it, man, because I've had like past life regressions, and I had some stuff come back on Mars, and I was Royal Guard of the royal family on there, and this is before Tiamat exploded. So I get it. I get what it's like when these memories start coming back and these recalls start coming back, and you know, so it's just
Memories for them.
You guys can share that.
I just hear it and like, oh, that sounds like a really cool story.
Yeah,
Like I've got a great bedtime story for my daughter, but you
Exactly,
know, in terms of this is one of Winnie's daughters. This is a Minnie or Auntie Minnie now.
She wants to go. She wants her turn now. Come and tell us then. Tell us what happens.
Yeah, well, Auntie Minnie, she wants to be called Auntie now that my daughter's been born. She considers herself an aunt to my daughter, and she doesn't want to be called Minnie, especially not Minnie anymore, because she says she's all grown up now, and that when I'm calling for Winnie and Vinny and Minnie when they're all outside, she can't tell who I'm calling for, so she doesn't want to be called Minnie anymore. She wants to be called Auntie.
Well, hello, Auntie. Yeah.
She's one of the cutest. But what did you want to know more about, Brett?
I lost my train of thought. Actually, well, I've got the dogs distracted me here. I mean, what are we doing for time? We've done an hour and 40. You got any more questions about the Black Goo? I'm thinking maybe, Brian, we could do timelines on another podcast now, maybe.
Yes,
and
I can tell you that. I can tell you that Arcane Raw, our friend in the community, a Montauk Project survivor, or Project Phoenix, also secret space program. He says that he has recall of encountering like the main AI entity behind the Black Goo and communicating with it, might have been telepathically. And it said, "Oh, I remember you from other timelines. I can't wait to eat your face again. It tastes so good." And he's like, "What? Fuck you." So this Black Goo, like, it's dark. It's not some of the, and I always say, whatever it is, we send it love and light and positivity, and say, instead of it always being this game of tag, which is a zero-sum game, at best for you take over the whole reality and eat us and turn us into energy to move on to the next timeline. Why not be our friends, and we can have awesome, amazing intergalactic, interdimensional adventures, through time and space together, and you can evolve with us. I think that's a much more fun and happy choice.
That sounds a lot.
So John recalls. Yeah. So John, that's why I should finish how it ended in that lifetime.
Yeah, finish up, my friend.
Was we were on our ship. John and I were on our ship conversing with the other 6 main people who are like telepathically linked together through the ship, acting as the decision-making body of the survivors, who there weren't many of us at that time, because the Black Goo had apparently taken over and spread all over. And we made the decision very quickly. Apparently, the six of them were very quick. We got to do this. And then John and I were like, do we want to do this? The decision was to fly my giant ship in a certain configuration, the shields or whatever the technology set up, into the heart of a star. And I'm told it was an artificial or Black Goo corrupted star somehow, so don't feel too bad. But we flew the ship into the heart of that star and blew it up and made it supernova. And cleanse everything around it in that area that had been taken over by the Black Goo. Because even though it sucks, it destroyed a lot of stuff. It was all Black Goo taken over. And if we hadn't cleansed the sector, by now the Black Goo probably would have taken over this area of space as well, is what I've been told by multiple sources. And I said, well, do I have to feel bad? Because is there a lot of heavy karma? And they said, no, you did what you had to do. And, apparently, and it might be connected, there's like one of these stars out there that like scientists didn't expect it to go supernova, but like it did supernova, and they're like, what the hell? And now it's like that light is kind of like reaching us and it's detectable here. So I'm just wondering if maybe that's the same, star that we blew up, and finally it took all those years for that light to get to here, and now it's like the timing is perfect.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for you, And if you feel that, that's probably true, Brian. So yeah, that's awesome, man. And I mean,
it resonates. I don't reject it. I'm cool. And maybe one of my millions of lives, sure. That was probably the galactic romper.
Yeah. Exactly, and still relative to you now. So we get to see that light. But yeah, incredible, man. I've actually loved that, and that's such an interesting thing. And I do love this past life stuff. And of course, the Orion Wars is such an epic part of galactic history, and that lasted some time, I understand. And I imagine a lot of, like I said, when you got off, I imagine a lot of beings are probably incarnated that probably did have some part to play, either victim, baddie, goodie, in that, and then a lot of karma of that is being healed on the Earth experience now. So, beautiful times, man. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we call it a night? Oh, one thing, David Campbell, just to me, say hi. So David Campbell says hi to everyone.
Oh yeah. So David is a good friend of mine, and also he is the founder and main admin for the Cosmic Community Facebook group with over 36,000 members. And he is utilizing the minor clout of his group to help spread the word about full disclosure and to advance the movement towards our Star Trek future. That's really what the full disclosure movement is about, is we need to know the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and bring the perpetrators to justice, and get all the technologies freed and all the resources freed, so that we can step boldly into our future as we should, instead of, being enslaved the way we have been for so many thousands of years. That is finally coming to an end. The messages from all over, and I'm seeing this materially, is the tides are turning. The way it's like, this is for life. You're like, I don't see any change. Like, everything looks terrible still. Well, think about it like this. I don't know if I explained this the last time I was on, but did I use the Miley Cyrus analogy? The Miley Cyrus video, Wrecking Ball? So she's like riding naked, coming through on a wrecking ball. Okay. And it's like, these are the bad guys, and they're on the wrecking ball naked, and they're swinging the wrecking ball all the way from the light all the way through to the darkness. And we've been dragged on the wrecking ball into the dark side. And they thought that they could slam through this wall, that they would win. And instead, they ran into it, and they gave it all their all, and they sacrificed as much as they could and did as much perversion as they could. And instead, they went thunk and bounced off the wall. The wall didn't give. And now that wrecking ball is finally now going to swing back towards the light where we all got dragged from. And as it's going. I can feel it. The tide has turned. I'm seeing it. We're getting funding. People are getting a lot of the targeting, as bad as it is in some cases, is being eased up. But we're still deep in the thick of it. But we're now coming back in the right direction, and there's nothing stopping us coming back the right way. And so, yeah, we're still seeing a lot of bad stuff around us, but we're coming into the light.
Exactly, mate. And for what's happened and the control methods and the indoctrination, the brainwashing, the prison we've been in place, that it has to be vibrated to the surface so we can create something new. And in that, there will be chaos and a little bit of chaos. But I'm 100% with you, man. The tide is 100% turned. In actual fact, on a higher level of consciousness, they never ever could have won this, because it's now the time of light. We've been in a dip in frequency, and we've been in the dark age on Earth. Though we've gained great soul experience from this, now we are heading into high vibrations, high frequency, a higher density, and a higher realm of reality. And I would say good times are ahead. And some people can't see it, Brian. Some people just aren't aware enough, or their consciousness yet hasn't expanded enough to see it. They're still trapped in the illusion, you know. But many people now can see it, and not only that, we can feel it, brother. So great times ahead, and you're definitely leading the way with this, and a place where people can come and can share this information openly without being judged. Beautiful, man. Yeah. Just keep doing what you're doing. And like you say, man, you've done this conference, and look at it. Like you went last year, this year, it's bigger, and people are still coming. I was seeing the other day, every day. You guess. Yeah. Amazing, brother. I'm so happy
guest list alone. Yeah, the guest list alone is going to be amazing. People are really stoked. You know, last year we didn't have worldwide UFOs in the skies, and you know, our conference was in July, and then come November 13th, Yemi Janae and her colleagues at the Farsight Institute were informed by their Galactic Federation contacts, hey, there's going to be worldwide UFO sightings very soon in your skies all around your planet. Undeniable. And 2 days later, on November 15th, Dr. Courtney Brown published their boardroom meeting to inform the world. And then 3 days later, on November 18th, we had worldwide UFO sightings. And the world gave credit to Cliff High with his AI computer algorithm. You know, it was getting data that there might be sightings, but definitively the Farsight Institute were told this is going to happen, and they called it. Yeah, but we're in a different position now in terms of disclosure. Like you were saying earlier, even the normies are waking up.
Oh, for sure. And I would imagine that in up and coming times, I would say this year up to 2027, that's going to more anomalies, and not just UFOs, more kind of beings, all kind of things. As the vibration changes, frequency change, more information and data can be received and perceived on Earth. Things are going to get crazy, you know. And that's why it's beautiful. We've got these people that are open to this, because you ain't going to turn on the news and get the true answers. You're going to get fear, as always, the same thing. But the beautiful thing is now we've got all these different communities, like you say, David Campbell, the Ramblers, the Full Disclosure, and many others that are there sharing their truth. So I'd say fun times ahead.
Thank you for having me back again.
You're very welcome, and we'd love to have you on again for timelines and time travel. And, you know, just to ramble at some, but I know you're busy, so we'll arrange that separately. Just want to say thanks to everyone who's watched us live and joined in with your comments. Beautiful, much respect and love. Everyone who watched the replay, if you've enjoyed it, please feel free to put a like on, share, subscribe would be great. It's absolutely free, and it helps us to build the channel. Scotty?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that too. Yeah, it's beautiful that people are starting to remember themselves and remember these past lives and so forth. And it's awesome to, you know, hear about, you know, your comic book and stuff that you're going to have to make that, because it's awesome to hear that we don't just have people that are weak that will roll over to the Black Goo, that we're actually going to get together, create the Guardians of the Galaxy, and we're going to fight against that. So, yeah, I thought that was really awesome. Great, you know, description of, you know, fighting the Black Goo too. That was, you know, you really took
that's all Jaden and John. To me, this is, I live vicariously through them.
Well, you have to let them know that was beautiful. And there's, you know, other warriors that are on their team too. So, you know, we got your back too. So that's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on too, Brian. Always appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. And thank you, Brett. I'll see you two gentlemen again. I can't wait. And thank you, everybody. God bless.
What's up, everybody?